Hello, welcome to part 2 of my Broken Triad Ghost walkthrough. Last time I played part 1, Arkford, and talked a little bit about why it might be my all-time favorite fan mission, and how it is just as good as I remembered from playing it a few years ago. Part 2, Tempest Isle, isn't, but only by the slightest margin. And while I can point out a few flaws with it, I think it's still absolutely brilliant. So let's load up our save from the end of mission 1 and continue here. Meet up with Keeper Aleph on the other side of the portal. With a bit of luck, he'll know what needs to be done. It doesn't seem likely that Nyarsal will just go away and leave you alone, put an end to his existence. If you manage to survive this whole business, find a way back home. Let's make a real save here. And the first thing I'll say here, this is one of, if not the most beautiful thief mission I've ever played. I just love the way it looks. Now, we do carry over some items from mission 1. First of all our weapons are intact. If you found a Staff of Far Reach in mission 1, you're gonna have it here, which is great. There are places where you can use it in this as well. And Brother Reginald's Rosary. Now, we didn't have any use for it in mission 1, but we will in this. Back here is a lever that's supposed to activate this portal, but it doesn't work. So we're gonna need to power this portal first, and it'll be our way back home. A Celestial Gate. Every 3 months, a select few gain the wonderful privilege of journeying to a place where the stars nearly touch the ground. Every 3 months, when the moon is in the correct position, the Celestial Gate grants the chosen ones passage to Caerl, the island of the sky. There they can spend the rest of their lives in the holiest of all cities, close to the gods. Those who get chosen are usually of higher standing, although their contributions to society are factored into the selection ritual as well. However, the Emperor, undoubtedly the most deserving of all, can never be chosen, as he must remain in Carathin to just reign over his people. So this mission expands the lore of the Lost City quite considerably, which is pretty cool. It doesn't contradict anything that was in the main game, and the way it moves the story forward is compelling. And here is the first place where we can use the Staff of Far Reach. You can flip the lever over there. And this will help us bypass one of the puzzles a little later on. Over here is our first piece of loot, a rug worth 100. Now, you can do something in the pool right here, but I'm not gonna do it, because I think it's a bit immersion breaking. So I'm gonna come back here once I get the readable telling me what to do. From this window, you can get over to this bridge. It's intended for you to use this window because there is more space, but you may as well use this one, it's not that difficult. And in here, you get an artifact and what's called a star gem. This we're gonna have to use later. Follow this ledge. into a room back here with another artifact and the hard to spot ring on the floor. Total 165. Here we can get down without taking any damage, and we can move on. In this small pool room there is a goblet. In the other room there is nothing of value. Now, it's normally intended for you to continue this way, but let me show you what's down here. This is the front entrance to the palace, and one way to open it is to input a combination using these hieroglyphs. That's what you have to do if you don't have the Staff of Far Reach, and normally there would be a gate here. But if you have the Staff of Far Reach and use it like I did, you can get into the palace quite a bit ahead of time. And this is not a sequence break, it's quite intended, and it saves a lot of time. In the palace we have a Hallowed candle, which we're gonna need, and another ring on the floor, total 205. This, by the way, is the last Emperor of this place. We're gonna learn about him a little later. And if we mantle this, we can find our first secret. Here, total 230. This leads to the temple, and this door can only be opened from inside. And here is a nugget, total 280, and a scroll. The elements are turning against us. Not a day passes without the ground trembling violently. The eastern shrine got completely submerged by the inexplicably rising seawater, and aggressive fire elementals have started appearing in the alleys of our city. I think this must be what happened to Kareth Din. Centuries ago, Vatoran arrived through the Celestial Gate and died at its steps. What he managed to tell the priests before he passed away was very similar to what we are experiencing now. Here, you can open this gate from this side, but there is no need. And if we follow this ledge, we can find the second secret. We were here. I'll move the jackal statue out of the way. There are 3 gems underneath. Total 355. So here is a fire elemental, which behaves just like a normal fire elemental from Thief Gold, except in this mission they are completely deaf. See that? So you can make as much noise as you want, they won't react to it. Here we have the way to the temple forecourt, but it's blocked off. And on this side, we have the city archive. In this room, there are 2 tablets. A speech given by Priest Gairon to the Council of Carath Din. Gairon, I still disapprove of the Third Gate's erection, although the Emperor made his stance on the matter clear. Allowing people from Caerl to come back to Carath Din is sacrilege. Voice from the Council. But it is meant for emergency situations only, and any misuse will be punished severely. Gairon, what kind of emergency would that be, I ask myself? Has the trust in our gods sunken so low that we see the need to install exits from the very place we consider holiest and closest to the eternity of the stars? And up here we have the list of Caerl's emperors. The only one that matters here is the first one, Caidan Heref. We're gonna read a little bit about Vas Baerek, the last emperor. That's the guy sitting on the throne there. But you don't have to remember his name for anything. And I don't actually have to go into that room, there is nothing of value, so I'm just gonna reload. Now this enemy patrolling here is not deaf. Here we have a goblet. We can get to the marketplace. Waitin, you must be mad thinking of profit when the city is crumbling around us. If you really must get inside the palace, try the name of Caerl's first emperor at the entrance. I have no idea how the treasury can be accessed though. Some say you have to set another pattern of hieroglyphs at the entrance. Even if you find the secret passage, its magical nature requires a particular way of navigating it, and the only person knowing how it works is sitting on a throne with a sword protruding from his forehead, Valen. So, normally to get into the palace you have to input the name of Caerl's first emperor, Caidan Heref, but you have to do it using hieroglyphs, and later in the mission you're gonna find out how to do it. But since we have the Staff of Far Reach, we're not gonna have to do it at all. Optional, a treasury, eh? Finding it sounds like a challenge, but passing up this opportunity would be a real shame. So also, like the note said, you have to input a different set of hieroglyphs at the entrance to get access to the treasury, and we're gonna find out that combination throughout the entire mission. And up here we have a glyph. And this looks like a Keeper sanctuary. Garrett, first of all, I want to thank you for following me. You are currently on Tempest Island, so called by seafarers because of the unnatural storm surrounding it. Before it became this cursed haven for restless souls, the island was called Caerl. It used to be populated by the Caerulians, a peaceful group of precursors who had come here by the means of Moon Portal, which brought us here as well. On the bright side, Nyarsal hasn't arrived on Tempest Isle yet, otherwise you likely wouldn't be reading this. The Moon Portal has some curious effects on time. For you it seemed to take mere seconds to travel from the museum to the island. In reality, the voyage can take from a couple of minutes to several hours or even days. It all depends on the moon's position the moment you enter the portal. Nyarsal, you and I entered at different times, thus we also arrived or will arrive here at different points in time. Since the portal works outside of normal time, it can happen that somebody who stepped into the portal earlier will reach their destination much later. At the time I'm writing this, I've been here for more than 2 days, and neither you nor Nyarsal have arrived yet. I only hope you get here before Nyarsal does. What you saw in Arkford was only the tip of the iceberg. I doubt I'd stand a chance against Nyarsal on my own, even though he is not in his complete form yet. Your immediate goal should be to follow me into the necropolis, the island city of the dead. The island is very unstable due to all the volcanic activity, and some of the corridors I took to enter the necropolis already collapsed. We'll have to find another route, most likely through the temple. Since I don't know if and when we'll meet in person, I've placed several books and notes throughout the sanctuary for you to read. They should give you a better understanding of my perspective on this situation. I won't leave any notes on the island itself, since they might be found by Nyarsal if he arrives before you do, Keeper Aleph. So the way the moon portal works is a bit contrived, but I don't have a problem with it, and I'll talk about why a little later. New objective, enter the necropolis. Here we have another star gem and another journal. Garrett, what you see around you is the effect of a sanctuary glyph. Normally the glyph creates a stationary protective bubble wherein a keeper is safe from any of the outside world's hazards. However, when I invoked the glyph, it created the sphere of reality, a remarkably accurate replica of the keeper compound where I had studied for most of my life. I believe the compound must be a recreation from my memory, because only those rooms are accessible where I've been before in reality, and only the books that I've actually read have any writing in them. I don't have an explanation why this happened. I can only assume that the paranormal storm surrounding Tempest Isle altered the sanctuary glyph's effect. In any case, this strange incident certainly works in our favor. I have invoked several sanctuary glyphs at different locations on Tempest Isle, and they all lead to this compound. This should enable you to travel quickly from one glyph location to the other by using the sanctuary as a hub. You'll notice that I've also created several impassable barriers which look like giant keyholes. These are security measures that should prevent Nyarsal/Leonard from just waltzing through the sanctuary in case he discovers one of the glyphs. The barriers will disappear with each new glyph you'll find on Tempest Isle. Once you've found and used all the glyphs, you'll be able to access the entire compound. Since the sanctuary is only a spell, you can't take anything out that's part of it. However, items from outside can be dropped and retrieved here without a problem. I did so with the star gem lying next to this book. Throughout Carol, you'll find small alcoves where you can insert one of these gemstones. The gems are a source of energy the former inhabitants of this island used to power various machinery. Keeper Aleph.
Better check my map.
Another new objective, find and use all the sanctuary glyphs on the island. And reading this journal also gives us a map, most of which we already explored. So we have arrived through the Celestial Gate right here, went through the Heron Court, Palace Garden, Palace Baths, then through here to the High Apostle. So the door to the temple, like I said, can only be opened from inside, and it also can't go through here from the Dawn Plaza, because the way here has collapsed. So we're gonna have to loop around from the offering ground. We have some notes here as well. Here is a rough map of the city. I marked the spots where you can find the sanctuary glyph. The other glyphs are in the City of the Dead. So we have found this one, and there is another location in the temple, so that's the next one we're gonna have to find. I hid one star gem in the Palace Gardens East Tower, so in case you missed that, this note will tell you where it is. If you can't enter the temple from the High Apostle, try the south entrance in the forecourt. Okay, let's make a save here. So, the Keeper compound. This is my favorite thing about this mission. It's a really cool way to move around the island, but it's much more than that, as you'll see later on. So I love both the idea and the implementation. And yeah, it's a bit gamey the way it works, but I don't care. Now there are a couple more places we can access in the market. First of all, we can go down this well. Here we have a sacred fire elemental and a scroll. Daimir, is it wrong if I'm looking forward to attending the funeral ceremony of Priest Melu? I can already imagine the richly decorated people passing me by as the procession slowly moves southwards, following the last path. It's the first time I'm allowed to see a funeral of a priest, and Healer Neza even agreed that I'll be assisting the Censer call. I'm a bit ashamed though. I was too nervous to ask him how such a call works. All I know is that it can summon the spirit of a deceased person. Can you explain the procedure to me, please? Rutan. And what we can do here is we can use the fire elemental to light our hallowed candle. But we can't get out of here with the candle still lit, because it gets extinguished by water. So later in the mission, we'll have to figure out a way to get out of here, because we're gonna need a lit candle for something. Here is a key, which will allow us to access this building from the other side. Goblet here. Is where we can use the key, and this counts as a secret. Get 3 pieces of loot inside, total 560. To get down, we can land on this brick, and we can move on. Dearest Ender, do not believe the priest's official reports of what happened yesterday. I saw it with my own eyes. During Emperor Vasbeyrek's public audience in the hearing court, a cloaked man stepped out of the crowd. He produced a sword from under his robe and hurled it across the crevice like a spear. The blade penetrated the Emperor's skull and buried itself into the throne's back before anyone even realized what was going on. The people attending the audience broke into a panic. The assassin then dropped his cloak and revealed himself to be a sentinel of the Dark Watch. It wasn't a mere disguise. His skin was a shade of ebony, and his eyes were ablaze like red coals. Before any of the guards could get hold of him, he leapt into the crevice and disappeared. But that is not all. The priests are trying to access the necropolis, but head priest Fuquan, who is in possession of the pyramid key, has gone missing. The only other key was buried with First Emperor Kaidan Haref in the tomb below the temple. But for reasons unknown to me, the priests have not sent anyone to retrieve it. Whatever caused the Sentinel of the Dark Watch to come alive and turn against us must have its origin in the City of the Dead, and I consider it a very dreadful omen that we are unable to enter it. Ender, we seriously should consider activating the Celestial Gate with the Moonstone. Although Kareth Din's departure portal was destroyed, there is a good chance the third gate is still intact. I know even thinking about leaving Caryll is considered a transgression punishable by death, but the third gate was built for a reason, and this reason is now at hand. The recent events lead me to believe that we are truly doomed if we remain here any longer. Please answer as soon as you can. Yours, Sidrena. And the way to proceed here is to rope up. Took me a minute to notice this woodbeam on my first playthrough. An odd occurrence. Something strange happened while I was cleaning the upper floor in the palace baths. Without any announcement, Emperor Vasbeyrek came rushing in and jumped right into the pool to take a shower under the waterfall. He lifted his face upwards but remained unaware of my presence as tumbling water was covering his eyes. Then, after just a few seconds, he climbed out of the pool and headed off, muttering something about his friends showing him the way through a secret passage. I knew the priests had put a special essence into the water, but I wasn't aware that it's making our Emperor hallucinate. So that's what I meant when I said we can do something in the palace baths. So we're gonna have to stand under the waterfall ourselves if we want to access the treasury. But that's just part of the puzzle. Up there, I think, is just a healing potion, nothing of value. And here are the gem locks. Now, there is a really nasty bug in this mission, where star gems don't get consumed when you use them. So it's not game-breaking, it's beneficial, actually, because you can get one star gem and power every single lock with it, but it is annoying, and the surest way to fix it is to use the latest version of T2 fix, which at the moment of this recording is 1.27e. On my practice run I was on version 1.27b and the bug still occurred. Here is a Spirit Fire Arrow, which I'll explain what it does in a little bit. They respawn in these braziers, so you can farm them if you want, but you really shouldn't need to do it. And here's the temple. Inside we have quite a bit of reading to do. As head priest and embalmer, I was of course among those who objected most strongly to the seafaring merchants setting foot on our island. When I heard they were trading goods they had brought from their ship, I fully intended to go down to the market and put a halt to any barter going on. Ironically, when I arrived there, I found myself being mesmerized by an item the strangers had on sale. It was a hammer, most likely used as an instrument in battle, which emanated an aura of inexplicable calm and salvation. I am convinced there is a divine nature surrounding this hammer that in some way connects to our island. I plan on acquiring it, not for personal possession, but for further studies. I discussed the matter of the merchants with Emperor Vas, and we agreed on dragging them and transporting them back to the ship. We are not interested in trading with other civilizations, and these hallowed grounds shall not be desecrated by infidels, head priest Fuquan. And here we have our second glyph. And on the table here we have a piece of paper called Translation. This is how you enter Kaidan Haref to access the palace, but I'm not gonna need to do that. And we have a journal. A practical guide to the known types of demons. False light. Many people who had been on the verge of death reported later that they had seen a bright light at the end of a black tunnel. In almost every account, this light is described as an intense glow, emitting peace and calmness. Clerics, as well as many scholars, agree that the light acts as a guiding beacon, which leads the spirits into the hands of the builder. A false light is an extra-dimensional demon, with the unique ability to cunningly mimic this kind of light. Its enthralling glow lures the souls of recently deceased into a trap where the demon devours or enslaves them. Worlds that are contaminated by a false light commonly experience a dramatic rise in the occurrence of undead, as their trapped souls cannot find any rest. Fortunately, a false light is unable to travel between dimensions on its own, and thus cannot befall other worlds at will. Summoning a false light for item enchantment is only recommended for the very experienced spellcaster. A single item is too weak a binding to hold this type of demon properly. If at all, a false light needs to be imbued into a divided triad. The name false light stands for the demon and the light it is radiating. So this is interesting, because it seems like the author tried to explain why there are so many zombies in the Thief universe. Now, I know there is a theory that the events in and around the Haunted Cathedral were caused by the Eye, but I don't think the Eye itself can explain every single zombie in the Thief world. And this is a compelling explanation. It's not canon, but it's interesting. A last arrival. Notes of Hilar Neza. This morning we made a gruesome discovery. Apparently the Celestial Gate had been activated during the night, 2 weeks before the next reception. As a result, the unfortunate man who had tried to get through only arrived partially. Lying at the foot of a gate we found an arm and a leg, both cut off as if a sharp knife had gone through them. This is one of the dangers of the portal. If the moon is not in the right position, travelers run the risk of being torn apart during the voyage, and having parts of them arrive at different times. This is why the reception ceremony only takes place 4 times a year, at days precisely calculated by Gareth Dins and careless astronomers. As for the traveler's identity, we cannot be sure for now. He was wearing an intricate ankle collar that suggests him being of higher standing, but otherwise we can only wait for the rest of him to arrive, as dreadful as this may sound. Several healers, myself included, were positioned at the portal to await the unfortunate traveler's arrival. Yesterday, the remaining body came through, and to everyone's shock, the traveler proved to be none other than Vatoran, Kerathin's emperor himself. We did our best to aid him, but he was too weak and with one foot already in the afterlife. During his last few breaths, he tried to speak to us, though his voice was no more than a hoarse whisper. From the little we could make out, Kerathin was on the verge of destruction. Vatoran mentioned the anger of Eshaktaar, and that the priests had tried everything to appease the earth. Nobody else arrived that day, and since then the gate has remained dark, which likely means the other end has been destroyed. Vatoran must have tried to escape the cataclysm by entering the Celestial Gate. Vizier Kaidan Haref announced a year of mourning for our emperor and the fall of our great city. As Vatoran is no more, Kaidan Haref will now ascend to be the first emperor reigning in Kerul. We just hope our brethren in Kerathin were able to escape with their lives. It is quite clear Vatoran was acting out of desperation. It is not the Emperor's place to step through the Celestial Gate, as tradition dictates. He has to stay with his people his entire life. Although we cannot communicate with our brethren in Kerathin, it became apparent to us already at the beginning of Vatoran's reign that he was quite fond of wealth, and not a man of the people, like his predecessor Draeworek had been. It was only a matter of time before the gods would show their resentment. There is a way back through the Celestial Gate if the third gate in Kerathin is still intact. But since this is a one-way path, nobody would be able to come back to Kerul and tell us what has happened to our home city and brethren. This readable should have been twice as short, in my opinion. I am not opposed to missions having a bunch of readables, even though I personally prefer environmental storytelling. Readables are not bad by themselves, but when you have so many of them in close proximity, they should be 1-2 pages tops. Because that's not the last one. Dearest Sidrana, even if the Council allowed us to install the moonstone at the Celestial Gate, there is a far bigger problem. We can't get inside the room where the stone is kept. Somebody destroyed the lock with the obvious intent to prevent anyone from accessing the room. I have a pretty good idea who performed the deed. Head priest Fuquan has always been very vocal concerning the third gate, and his recent disappearance is just too much of a coincidence. Ever since he obtained that strange hammer, his behavior has become increasingly erratic, and this is the result. Unless we can break that door open soon, we better find a secure place to hide. There is a storm brewing in the City of the Dead. Yours, Ender. So back here is that room that we're talking about, with the broken lockbox. So we're gonna have to get into this room a different way, which is quite interesting. This lockbox we can pick. Inside we have 2 pieces of loot and another readable. Bright light shone in my eyes when I woke up this morning, despite there being no window in my chamber. I soon realized that the source of this unusual glow was the hammer I had acquired from the seafaring merchants. To my further amazement, there was an ethereal figure standing right next to it. The apparition had its left arm outstretched, as if it were reaching for the hammer. Then it turned its head towards me. A chill went down my spine when I recognized the ghost to be that of Kiban, the fisherman we had buried just a few days ago. With an accusing stare, Kiban seemed to be mouthing soundless words directed at me, and then he was gone. With that, the hammer's glow faded as well. This event has confirmed my belief that the hammer has a connection to Kerul, and more precisely to the City of the Dead. I am unsure of this connection's exact nature, thus I'm going to visit the necropolis before I bring this matter before the council, head priest Fuquan. And back here is another star gem. If we mantle this, we can find a secret with a mask, total 630. It whispers to me at night. Fuquan, it says, you must bring me to your brethren in the necropolis, but before that you must make sure nobody can leave Kerul. Fear swallows my voice and I cannot answer. We will do as I command, it says. Then it laughs, and laughs, and laughs. That's odd. Ender, moving the sacred fire elemental away from the market and closer to the palace is out of the question. I thought you knew that the elementals only remain stable where they've been shaped. Remember the fire elemental that went rampant 5 moons ago? It happened because the pedestal had been moved by accident. That is why we shaped this one near the water and away from the palace. I know it is tedious, but if one of the palace's hallowed candles goes out, we'll have to bring it to the market and relight it there, day near. Alright, enough reading. So first of all, we can open this door, which leads back to the temple forecourt, or the hypothel. Temple forecourt is here. And this is the door to the necropolis, but we need to insert a pyramid here, and that we're gonna find down below. So this is the tomb that was mentioned in one of the readables. Here is another star gem. An artifact here. 4 more artifacts. Total 855. And this must be Kaidan Heref. And he's not very happy with us taking the pyramid, it seems. Now, the way this tomb flows is a little strange, because you may think you want to continue through here, but you don't, because you'll eventually just hit a dead end. What we want to do instead is backtrack. And trigger this. So now we have some enemies here, and now you can make your way to the other end of the tomb. This grave is now open, and we have 3 pieces of loot inside. Total 920. So yeah, the flow here is a bit counterintuitive, but it's not a huge deal. At worst, it's gonna make you waste a couple minutes of your life. Oh yeah, the spirit fire arrows. So these can be used on any undead creature, and they'll turn any undead friendly. So they'll attack other undead and ignore you. You can use them prematurely to make enemies ignore you, but that's not allowed for ghosting, and I don't need to do it. Behind here is a rug. mask, total 1045. And here we can rope out. Right then, let's head into the necropolis.
I should be careful in here. There are likely a few traps around.
Indeed, the first one is right here in this corridor. Now, this trap is odd, because at first you may think that it's an acrobatics puzzle that requires quick reflexes and precise movement, but what it actually requires is finding this button, and then crouching in this opening. Here we have 3 ways to go and 3 symbols, which we can arrange using this. And if the light is red, that's not the way. If the light is blue, you're good. Now, which of the 3 is the correct one is randomized, so you have to check it each time you play the mission. This lever reveals another secret. Jump here, total 1070. And we made our way into the necropolis. Now at this point the mission opens up and we have 2 ways to go, but it makes a lot more sense, both story and gameplay wise, to go down here first. And these guys are members of the Dark Watch. They are pretty much your regular undead, and they will react to the spirit fire arrows just like zombies. And here we have a green obelisk. 2. When the scarab starts pushing the sun up into the sky. So what matters here is number 2 and the word scarab written in all caps. Let's just keep this in mind for now. I'll explain what it means a little later. Here we have an artifact. Another star gem. And a scroll. The Jackal's Gate. When the funeral procession follows the last path south, it will pass the Jackal's Gate. As depicted on its doors, the gate will only open when one jackal can announce the procession's arrival to the other. Over here, we can open this gate, and as it opens, it will move upwards. And actually block this way. Now if we close it on our way in here, we can go down that tunnel, and this actually counts as a secret. Three artifacts here, total 1195. But now we're kinda trapped in here because we can't open that gate from this side. However, that's not a problem, because there is another glyph in here. And another star gem. Garrett, please take my personal medallion with you. I have imbued it with a glyph that can transport you directly to the sanctuary at any time, no matter where you are on Tempest Isle. This very room used to be the place where I slept and studied. Just like you, I had been a kid with no parents and no home. I often snuck into the city's public library, not to steal, but to read and escape reality, if only for a few hours. Eventually, a keeper found me in a section commoners were not supposed to see, and my passion for books brought me into their circles. Now that I think of it, maybe it was my fascination with worlds crafted by mind that allowed the sanctuary glyph to create this place. As I am writing this, I have discovered where we both need to go. In the western section of the necropolis, there is a long straight path leading south. The Kerulians simply called it the last path. At the end of this path is the inner chamber, which leads into a large tomb containing the priests' and healers' graves. All the evil surrounding this island emanates from this tomb, and that is where we can put a stop to it. Right. Gain access to the inner chamber in the necropolis by following the last path southwards. And Keeper Aleph medallion adds another layer to the utility of the Keeper compound. Whatever Keeper Leonard told you about Nyarsal's origins, he very likely skipped over a few essential parts so you wouldn't get suspicious. Most importantly, the mage apprentice who summoned the demon several decades ago intended to create a divided triad. This requires 3 items: a book, a sword, and a hammer. The spell backfired, and the 3 objects gain influence over whoever owned one of them. Giving each item away to another merchant was the last shred of sanity the apprentice could muster before he killed himself. He knew that the triad's items needed to be kept as far apart from each other as possible, as they desired nothing more than being reunited, so the triad could be broken. From this point on, the items traveled through many hands, constantly trying to convince their owners to search for other objects. When the book fell into the hands of a scribe, it persuaded her to split it into 2 halves. This way, each volume could travel in a different direction while searching for the other items. The scribe named the first volume the Book of Elimination, and the second one the Book of Souls. I know you are quite familiar with the latter. While the Book of Souls eventually found its way into the halls of the Dawn Mages, the Book of Elimination fell into the hands of the Keepers, which means it got shelved and soon forgotten as another ancient tome, collecting dust in our vast library, until Keeper Leonard picked it up, that is. And now that we have Keeper Aleph's medallion, we can actually go back to the market. We can light the candle, and then we can use the medallion to get out of here. Now, I don't know how Garrett keeps a lit candle in his inventory, but since he can keep everything else in there, including 50 or so pieces of loot, I'm not gonna question it. we just need to get back to the necropolis. Let's make a save here and continue with the other half of the necropolis. Let's head up here. And in this corridor we can access another secret by using the Staff of Far Reach. Chest here with a gem, total 1220. And another obelisk. 3. The perceptive eye will see the light. So 3 eye. Okay. The sound design for all the creatures in Broken Triad is stellar, in my opinion. These guys, the ash creatures in the previous mission, are all very creepy. So here is the last path. And what we have to do is make sure that one jackal, this one here, can signal the other one. What does this mean? If we head up this way, we're gonna come to a bridge with a button. Pressing this button makes this jackal shoot a fireball towards the other one, but it gets blocked by 2 plates, and we have to move those out of the way. The first one we can reach from here, but the second one we have to approach from the other side. I'll get to it in a couple minutes. This room has 2 pieces of loot and a nice scare with the rattling sarcophagi. And now we're about this place. Now you can get to the other side here with that fire shadow or whatever it is, and there is a pickable door at the end, and inside is a star gem. Now it's very tricky to get, and you don't actually have to do it, because the mission has 1 more star gem than you actually need, and if you want to skip one, that's definitely the one you should skip. So let's just grab a goblet here, total 1360, and move on. Here we have another artifact and another glyph. Divided Triad. If a demon is too powerful to be imbued into a single object, an experienced mage can still trap it by dividing its essence into 3 items, a divided triad. A triad typically consists of a book, a sword, and a hammer. Each of the 3 items gains a part of the demon's traits. This is a difficult spell, which leaves no margin for errors. A single mistake can weaken the binding considerably and cause the 3 items to eventually gain control over their respective owners. And we have Keeper Leonard's notes as to what the items are. The divided triad spell can be reversed if the items are used to destroy each other. First, the sword needs to destroy the book, and then the hammer has to be used to shatter the sword. This is called a Broken Triad, which would bring the demon's full form into this world. For this reason, it is important that at no time a single person owns more than 1 item in the same triad. Garrett, the following is a recollection of what happened to me in the Keeper compound. The day I got involved was the day I noticed the book missing from the library. I looked up the tome's title, The Book of Elimination, and remembered that I had seen Keeper Leonard carrying around an odd book with this name some weeks ago. Being the young over-eager librarian that I am, I went to his quarters, knocked and recklessly opened the door. There was nobody inside, but on Leonard's desk I noticed a large open tome, which, you guessed it, happened to be the one missing from the library. I reached for the book, but when I touched it, an intense sensation went through my entire body, like an electrical shock. A flurry of disturbing images flashed before my eyes, and seconds later I found myself lying on the floor. Fortunately, I managed to get back onto my feet and stumble out of the room before Leonard returned. The images I had seen followed me into my sleep, and in the middle of the night I woke up drenched in cold sweat. I left my room and headed for the wash-in closet, but when I passed the door to Keeper Leonard's quarters, a sudden sensation of dread overcame me. An inexplicable force urged me to go inside and grab the ominous book on the desk. Then I heard Leonard's muffled scream coming from the other side of the door, and a second later, a pain pierced my skull as if my mind had been set on fire. Indeed, when I regained consciousness, a faint odor of burned paper hung in the air. Leonard apparently hadn't left his quarters, otherwise he'd have stumbled right over me. Not daring to enter Leonard's room or report the strange incident to somebody else, I returned to my quarters. I felt tired, but oddly relieved, and when I lay on my bed, I fell asleep almost instantly. The next morning, I saw Keeper Leonard up and well, as if nothing had happened. However, I noticed that he was wearing gloves, and there was something very different about his demeanor. He had always been a very timid person, whose best friends mainly consisted of books. Now he seemed unusually confident and almost intimidating. In the following weeks, Leonard went on several research trips, which also struck me as odd. The Leonard I had known wasn't the kind of person to go on solo expeditions. Nobody I asked seemed to know what he was researching, but coming from a librarian, my concerns were largely ignored. I never dared to speak to Leonard personally. There was something dreadfully unnerving about him, only I appeared to notice. Several times I secretly searched his quarters during his absence, but it was only months later that I discovered the secret passage in the wall behind Leonard's bed. Check the bookshelf to your left. What I found in there made me realize what was going on, and where Leonard's latest excursions have led him: Arkford. By the time I discovered his personal notes, Leonard had been away for almost a full month. I knew I had to act quickly, and I left the compound immediately to head for Arkford. When I arrived, the city had already been overrun by Nyarsal's wrath, but at least I managed to save you from the fire. Keeper Aleph. The bookshelf to our left. Okay. Here we have Keeper Leonard's notes. Who'd have thought that the Book of Elimination could enlighten me in this most literal sense? In the middle of the night, a fervent urge befell me to get up to my desk and open the book. No sooner than I had yielded to this compulsion, the volume went up in flames while I was holding it. In my naive foolishness, I screamed as I felt the demon enter my body, until I realized there was nothing to fear. There are so many ideas going through my head right now that I need to write them down. Nyarsal has embraced me with burning arms and is now part of me. He showed me the hooded man called Garrett, who had found the second half, the Book of Souls. The thief destroyed it with a sword the very moment I was holding the Book of Illumination, and thus he freed both halves of Nyarsal's imprisoned essence at the same time. I need to find and contact Garrett as soon as possible. There is much to do. My path is clear now. I can hear the third item with the Triad, the Warhammer Draeworek, scream with rage. For several decades, it has been imprisoned inside an underground chamber on a remote island. Its false light has been shining for so long that hundreds of unlucky souls got trapped on the island as well. Their restless spirits are surrounding the island like an eternal storm, and any ship that sails too close is doomed. I have to find a way to get there without being subjected to the storm of Tempest Isle. Furthermore, Draework's stony confinement is sealed and can only be unlocked from the inside. To open the inner chamber, I'd need somebody who can walk through walls. Unfortunately, ghosts don't make reliable accomplices. My research on Tempest Isle has led me to a town called Arkford. The local museum's library has some writings about the island, apparently. I think I've struck gold. It seems Draeworek was brought to the island by a sailing merchant. In a letter, the merchant described the island as a paradise of precursor origin, and he muses about how the people of the lost city got there without ships. This led me to an inventor called George Bolston, who's been doing a lot of research on precursor technology. One of the artifacts he's studying is some sort of lens that was found in the ruins of Careth Din. The same lens can be seen on the drawing the merchant made of a structure he saw on the island. My intuition tells me I found the means to travel to Tempest Isle. Garrett has accepted his path. When everything is prepared, he will abandon his physical body and follow the false light. The hammer will feel Nyarsal's presence inside Garrett's spirit and lead him to the inner chamber. Garrett's ghost will open the chamber and then return to his body so I can extract his part of Nyarsal's essence. Okay, I am in two minds about this readable. It's a huge exposition dump, but I don't think it's redundant, because it does explain quite a few things. For example, what happened after we drank the Nightshade potion in the last mission. Remember? We were transported to some kind of an upside-down room where we pulled the lever, and this explains what that was, and it's something worth explaining, I think. I was really confused by that whole sequence on my first playthrough. But these notes are a bit sloppily written, like this part right here, and they also reveal some of the contrivances of the entire story. Now, in Amuna's Bequest, we only dealt with the sword, the Dormicast, and the Book of Souls. Now, the Warhammer Draeworek was brought up in Mission 1, Arkford, and the Book of Illumination is never brought up until this very mission. And on one hand, that's fine. I can buy that other items related to the sword and the Book of Souls can exist. Garrett doesn't need to interact with everything at once. But the Book of Illumination seems to be just a plot device. It seems like its purpose is so that the character of Keeper Leonard, who houses a part of Nyarsal's essence, can exist in the story. So now I understand where some of the criticism of this mission's story comes from, and I hadn't remembered this actually from my last playthrough. So I suppose this is my biggest criticism of the mission's story as well. I think this could have been handled a bit more elegantly. And speaking of big criticisms, my biggest criticism of the mission's gameplay is also coming up right here. So the way to get to the second plate we have to open, that one, is located inside this room. Can you see where it is? I have no idea why this ladder, and this path really, is so hidden. It's the critical path, you have to go up here, and it's very obscure. It's not intuitive at all to jump into the fountain there. I guess you could stack a couple objects to get up here, but that's even less intuitive. So let's save it here. Before heading back to the bridge, let's explore the rest of the necropolis, starting with unbarring that door. Gotta use a star gem here. Replacement immediately, and we have an obelisk. 1. The hare will be the first to notice the dawn. Here is Lunar Court, and we have to use 2 more star gems to open this sarcophagus, or whatever it is, in the middle. Inside there are 2 mounds of incense, which we'll need later. And up there you can see another green obelisk. This is the last one. 4. And the duck will start its flight towards the gods. So these obelisks have to do with our optional objective. And the word, written in all caps in each message, refers to a glyph we have to enter at the entrance to the palace. So the full combination to access the treasury is hare, scarab, eye, duck. But before we raid the treasury, we have some more important business to attend to. There's an artifact, total 1435. Over there is another star gem. I really like the skybox in this mission, but you rarely get to marvel at it. But over there, for example, it kinda looks like there is a volcano in the distance. It's kinda cool. So as you remember, the fireball makes noise. So let's wait for that member of the Dark Watch who patrols here to come through. Right, this should be good. Looks like Nyarsal has arrived. Now, if you actually go back to these areas, you can encounter him, but at this point in the mission there shouldn't be any need for us to do it. Censer call. Written, your excitement is understandable and not entirely out of place. A funeral is both a time for reflection and rejoice. Remember, even though Priest Male has left us, he is now residing among the stars, next to our gods. As for the Censer call, here are the necessary steps. Since you've taken the role of an assistant, you probably won't need to perform all this by yourself. First, you need a special kind of incense. It's stored in a container in a lunar court. Normally you'd have to ask Healer Neza or Priest Valen to open the censer container, which is protected by 2 star gem locks. Put the incense into the censer bowl and then light it. Remember that you need the flame of a hallowed candle to accomplish this, as common fire won't work. If the light of your candle has gone out, you have to find one of the sacred fire elementals to relight it. Wait until the incense is emanating smoke. Next, take out the personal item of the deceased person whose spirit you want to call, and hold it over the bowl. The item must be something that used to be very dear to the person who previously owned it. If nothing happens, this either means you've done something wrong, or the spirit you are calling does not like you. If the spirit does indeed appear, keep in mind that it won't be at your command like a slave. It'll try to be of assistance if it can, but don't expect it to linger for long. During the funeral ceremony, the called spirit will raise the bridge so the procession can continue south into the inner chamber, Daenir. Right, so we have the incense already, can light it, and the item that was very dear to a person who owned it is actually Brother Reginald's rosary.
Who is calling me? Ah, I recognize thee. Thou art the one who released me from my frozen prison. And as the Builder's Forge still remains closed to me, I followed the light, but it did not lead me to salvation. Instead, I found myself in this forbidden place amidst the sea of restless souls. They are circling this island, drawn to a voiceless scream like moths to a flame. Only the Builder gives me strength to resist their song of lamentation. Oh, but enough about me. What is it thou dost desire? Ah, I see thy path is blocked. Let me help thee, friend.
I like Brother Reginald. He's a bit of a goofball, but in a very endearing way. And that's the room we visited in the last mission. I always saw myself as a worthy disciple of our gods. Now that I realize what a fool I had been, I see no other way but to seal the inner chamber. The hammer's peaceful aura was just a disguise, and as soon as I got into the tomb, the cursed weapon unveiled its real face. The demonic hammer feeds on the spirits of the dead, and I was foolish enough to bring it right into the center of sustenance it desires. With each soul it consumes, its strength and influence increase. I just pulled the lever and cut off the water. This will seal the inner chamber from the inside and permanently lower the last path bridge to the north. While I can't prevent the hammer's power from stretching beyond the confinement of these walls, I can at least contain the cursed weapon physically. Head Priest Fuquan. And here is Keeper Aleph. And our last glyph. So we've just completed 3 objectives in a span of like 15 seconds. We found our way into the inner chamber, found all the glyphs, and we met up with Keeper Aleph. Garrett, as you might have guessed already, the body you found near the last glyph was mine. I had died already before you arrived, and all that is left of me is this mind construct the sanctuary glyph created. As long as I cannot find any rest, the sphere of reality and the glyphs connected to it will continue to exist and allow me to communicate with you. The Warhammer Draeworek is very close. You have to find a way to destroy it, but remember that you must not touch it. Any direct contact would immediately kill you. I am sorry I could not be of more help. Honestly, I'm surprised I even made it this far. After all, I'm a librarian, not an adventurer. Farewell, Keeper Aleph. Keeper Aleph is one of my favorite characters in any fan mission, and I was really glad that he turned out to be a good guy. I was actually expecting, on my first playthrough, for him to turn on us as well, and I was really glad that when he didn't, because honestly, if this mission had a plot twist, or heavens forbid, a double plot twist, that would have been too much. And it can seem a little too convenient how he can communicate with us, with these readables, but I don't see any other way this could have been done, and this is needed for this reveal that he was dead all along to actually work. And I don't mind it, because this is the Thief universe. It's well established that magic exists, so his way of communicating with us and the sanctuary glyph, being a construct of his mind, like you said, doesn't really contradict anything that was in the main game, so why not? The water extinguished our candle again. Right, there is Draeworek. Let's make our last real save. And now we're coming up on one of the funniest bits in this entire mission. So at no point are we actually told about how to destroy Draeworek. So what do we do? Well, here are two star gem locks, so let's see what's in here. Another censer bowl. Well, we still have some incense. Our hallowed candle got extinguished, but conveniently enough there is another sacred fire elemental right here. And I guess we are calling Brother Reginald again?
It is thee again, friend. Tell me, what is this place? Oh, by the builder, our most holy symbol. His hammer is cursed by foul spirits. I must go and bless it at once. It is done.
At last I have found you. Now I can break the Triad and free myself from this accursed spell. What is this light? No! It turns against me!
Keeper Aleph's final note. It looks like Draeworek's destruction set off the glyph imbued inside the Keeper medallion and catapulted both you and Nyarsal into the Keeper compound's replica. The sanctuary has become unstable. I removed all the glyphs save one to prevent Nyarsal from leaving. The last glyph leading out of here is inside my quarters, beneath a floor panel. The switch that opens it is under the desk. As soon as you get out, drop the medallion and cleanse it with a spirit fire arrow. This will cause the sanctuary to collapse and throw anything still inside it into oblivion. Hopefully, that will rid this world of Nyarsal once and for all. Keeper Aleph.
supposed to be my triad.
This switch is not here until the sequence, obviously. So we have to drop the medallion and cleanse it. And there we go. Nyarsal is defeated. Now let's talk about this entire sequence we went through. So, like I said, when we get to the inner chamber, we have no idea how to destroy Draeworek. So we summon the spirit of Brother Reginald, because it's the only thing we can do, and he doesn't have any idea what he's doing either. He doesn't come up with a plan to destroy the hammer, he just decides to bless it randomly, and that's enough for it to blow in Nyarsal's face. Which... what's the word I'm looking for? It's corny, right? But I don't care, because of what happens next. The sequence inside the collapsing Keeper Sanctuary, with the animated walls and Nyarsal chasing you through it, is fantastic. It's one of the best sequences I've seen in any fan mission, or in any game, really. It feels like a proper boss encounter for a stealth game, and kinda reminds me of how we defeat the Trickster at the end of the Dark Project, which actually brings me to a point I've been meaning to make about Broken Triad. In my opinion, Broken Triad is as big an adventure as the entirety of the Dark Project. I mean, it's not really, but the sheer scale, the epicness of it, the world-ending stakes, are comparable, kinda. And you know what? That settles it. Broken Triad is still my all-time favorite fan mission. It's not perfect, but it's the most satisfying experience I've had with a fan mission. Here we have a moonstone, and looks like we got teleported into this room, which we couldn't get into earlier. How nice! So all that's left for us to do is to raid the treasury. And as you remember, there are two steps. First we have to stand under the waterfall in the palace bath. So let's do that. Now I don't want to alert any craymen here. Alright, good. Your eyes are now open to the unseen. Alright then. And now we gotta enter the combination. Hare, scarab, eye, and duck. This doesn't really look like a duck, but it's the closest thing here to a duck. So there we go. Doing that moves this obelisk out of the way. And down here we have to stop and turn around before each of these little bugs. And there we go. Let's use our last star gem. And we made our way into the treasury. Got 4 chests here, full of gems. Always feels really nice to raid a place like this. There we go, total 1985. The last chest just has a star gem, but I'm not gonna need them anymore. So to activate the portal, I need to put the moonstone in here. And now it should work. Down here is our last piece of loot, total 2010, and bonus, you found all the loot in the mission. And there we have it. Mission complete in 49 minutes, 45 seconds, found all the loot, 2010, picked 2 locks, and found all 8 secrets. Campaign totals, time so far 2 hours, 37 minutes, 38 seconds, loot so far 4020. So, I expected Broken Triad to hold up quite well, but I forgot how much I love this mission. And replaying it was a real treat. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it as well. So, thanks for watching. Next I'm gonna start Godbreaker, so I'll see you guys when I see you, and for now, take care.